Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Moosie Drier and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen, along with Moosie Drier, and today we are thrilled to welcome someone who has over 200 acting credits to his name. He's a Daytime Emmy Award winner. He was one of the stars of the beloved sitcom Parks and Recreation. He's also the author of the new book, Welcome to Pawnee, Stories of Friendship, Waffles, and Parks and Recreation. Please help us welcome Jim O'Hare. Jim, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey guys, it's my pleasure. Boy, who the hell are you talking about? Credits and Emmys? I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I heard 200 credits. Why don't you have 300? You know what I mean? So exactly. I see it a different way.
Actually, it's funny. I don't follow that, but yet because I've been doing a lot of interviews for the book, people will bring it up. And somebody said to me the other day, she says, Jim, you have 207, like they were so specific. They said you have 207 credits on IMDb. And I said, oh, I guess that's good, right? And they said, well, yes, because that's not even including the separate, like Parks is just one credit, but you did 100 and
yes,
whatever.
Exactly.
I mean, they were so all about the IMDb. And I said, I guess it's good. I'm just happy when someone hires me and gives me a job. So wherever it gets credit for it later, that's out of my hands.
Well, we have a lot to cover for you. I mean, but I want to start by going back with you. So you grew up in Chicago, and as a kid, what inspired your love of performing? Like any influences?
Well, first of all, I grew up a TV kid. Like, my parents, first of all, there wasn't all that much television. You even had options to watch when I was a kid. There were three networks. Yeah, ABC, NBC, CBS. Fox didn't exist.
Right.
There was, but I became quickly hooked on sitcoms. And so I'm talking Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, of course, in the Carol Burnett Show, like just these iconic shows. So, and to this day, a good sitcom is what, that's my happy place. So, yeah, I mean, I would always look at that. And then I loved Saturday Night Live. I still do. And I know people are like, oh, it's run its course. Like anything, it has hit and miss comedic episodes of television. They're hit and miss sometimes. But anyway, so I've always loved television. But I can't say that I ever was like, man, I thought I would ever get to do that one day. And I was one of those kids, and I talk about this in the book, and I'm not proud of this, but in high school, there was, you had your jocks, you had your burnouts, you had different categories. And the group that looked like they were having the most fun to me, and I'm just going to use the term because this was the term at the time, were the drama fags. I mean, that's what they called them.
Right.
God forbid you'd be labeled something like that. So one of the regrets I guess I have in life is I would have loved to have been one of those drama fags. Like that would have been the greatest. They looked like they were having a great time. I would go to all the shows. I was always blown away. So I knew I had an interest, but God forbid, you get, when you're a kid, you're worried about labels and all that stupid crap. But anyway, so it never really came to happen for me until I went to college and I worked at a radio station at the school at Loyola in Chicago. And I thought, man, this is kind of cool. They're just letting me say what I want to say and do what I want to do. So I began as a DJ. This whole thing began, I left college to go to broadcasting school. And then in those days, you had to get a license and you had to learn how to, old-fashioned editing with razors, it's craziness compared to what gets done today. But it was a great learning ground. But so, yeah, I started as a DJ. But as far as acting, when I knew this is what I wanted to do, I ended up going to Second City in Chicago just to take classes. And I've told this story 1,000 times because it's so true. You get in a class with a group of people you've never met before. It's all intimidating. And I got on stage, and in those days, you actually did your class on the main stage at Second City, where Belushi was, where Aykroyd was, where Bill Murray. Mary Gross, like all of these iconic people. And I got on stage, they're teaching us, and I got my first laugh, and it hit me like, I'm telling you, I can feel it right now.
Yes.
It's like, oh, damn. damn, that's something. And my sister used to say to me, what if you're only, because my family would be like, oh, you're so funny, blah, blah, blah. And then one day she said to me, what if you're only family funny? Like, what if only we think you're funny? Oh, damn it. So here I am on stage and I'm like, well, these people aren't family. They don't even know who the hell I am. And I got to laugh. So
Validating. Yeah.
It was very validating. And I will say that was the moment I really had like the people use the term the come to Jesus moment. It was my come to Jesus moment where I knew I would always need to be doing that. Never in 1,000,000 years thinking it would pay a bill or be a career. I just knew I wanted that. So whether it be through classes or however I would do that. So that started the acting world for me because I took classes there. Then I met a group of people and we started a comedy group of our own called White Noise. And we did really well in Chicago. And then I started working at other theaters in Chicago. And so I was all in. But again, I truly, as much as you might dream it would happen, I never thought it would happen that this is how I would earn my living doing what I love. But through whatever miracle, that's exactly what's happened.
Before I go on, you mentioned one sitcom, and I have to mention it, and because he's too modest to mention it. Moosie had a recurring role on Bob Newhart. So,
whoa! What did you do?
I was the pilot, Bill Daly, Howard's son. I was Little Howie.
Oh, you're Little Howie. I've seen you.
Yeah,
oh
God, I just don't even know how we're talking right now because I'm legendary, but I love to talk to the little people,
Dude, I am not worthy. I am not worthy.
So that's funny. No.
This is really cool. Do you have memories of that? First of all, I could talk to you forever about this because I will tell you, I have said a million times, I would rather sit and talk with people like you from the old, I don't mean old days where I'm probably way older than you are.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
I got on Zoom, I can't be that old. All right, go ahead.
Wait. Let me get my glasses on. Whoa.
Yeah, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hadn't looked close enough.
Yeah.
But I would rather hear stories from that type of era. If someone said you can sit down and chat with, I don't know, who's like a Brad Pitt, okay, that'd be interesting, I guess, but give me a Dick Van Dyke. Give me hours of Dick Van Dyke.
Even give me, God rest his soul, Jack Riley, who was
my God, Jack
you know
Riley.
What I mean? Like someone he was a journeyman who just hit this character, Mr. Carlin. Dude,
let me tell you real quick.
Go ahead.
So I come to Chicago. I come to LA finally with this play we had done in Chicago called Stumpy's Gang, and it was crazy. It had puppets and blood, and as a matter of fact, when I did one of the I think it was Seth Meyers, but doing guesting on one of the shows, he brought out pictures of me with these mutated puppets. I mean, because it really is what started my career in LA. But what was wild was, so when I first moved here, I can't get traction at all. No, I'm sending out the photos like everybody else. You get you get a stack of headshots, you slap a resume on the back of it and you send it out. Nothing. I'm getting no response at all. Then we open up this play called Stumpy's Gang, and all of a sudden there's a little heat. Reviews are good. It's becoming a bit of a cult kind of thing where people are showing up again and again because it's blood and it's craziness. So then I get a hit from this. The agencies start calling me. Now all of a sudden they do want to meet me. And this one agent calls and they said, we're going to send one of our people to see your show. One of their assistants had seen it, a young person, and said to them, oh, you have to come and see this show. So they sent one of the agents. That agent, at this time, their agency only took on new people that they all agreed with. So the one agent comes, she falls in love with the show and likes me, and she wants to rep me, but she's got to get this other person on board. So she sends the other person. She shows up with her husband. Whatever. The show is over. I walk outside to meet them, and her husband was Jack Riley. I was like, and as much as I was excited, like, oh, this potential agent is here.
Sure.
I didn't give a shit anymore. It was like, Jack Riley is here. Jack Riley just saw me do this show. So yes, I am with you. I would sit down. I know he's passed, but I would sit down with Jack Riley for days and hear all the good stories. First of all, character actors are what make the
Yep.
landscape. I mean, they just do. And people, I have this mug. I'm a big guy. It is what it is. And, no one's hiring me to be the leading man. I get that. But I'll tell you, character actors have they're going to have a longer run. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And Nick Offerman and I used to say all the time, because when Nick and I, started on Parks, we were both just journeyman character actors. This is who we were, and had been making decent livings. I was, one of the shows, it might have been Kimmel, the first thing he said to me is, "What show haven't you been on?" Like, I've been on I was doing okay. And I had one of those faces where people would go, "You look familiar," which I always say, as an actor, that means you're working. Like, if people are going, "Oh, you look so familiar," it means you're out there and people are seeing you.
Yeah.
But then, a show like Parks comes along, and, for Nick and I, it changed everything. But yes, I mean, just journeyman working actors, that's a great career. Like, when you think about a Bob Newhart without Marsha Wallace.
Oh no. And Suzanne Plachette was her character's the smartest person in the room, and what a great straight man she could be, even though Bob was so dry, it was odd. Who's the straight man here? Who's not? And then Bill Daly would come in, and then everyone's a straight man. It just, I loved
Bill Daly. People. I mean, we're going back to I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah.
Again, talk about a great character actor who worked forever. Yeah. I love all that stuff. Through a miracle, and I mean, I call it a miracle, I have worked with Dick Van Dyke. I bet, and there's a horribly embarrassing story in the book about my experience with Mary Tyler Moore. And I got to work with Carol Burnett. So and Betty White. Those moments, those are treasured. Those are, I mean, I was in a trailer getting hair and makeup done, and next to me is Dick Van Dyke singing songs from Mary Poppins. And you're like, what is happening? Like, what in my life am I sitting here next to Dick Van Dyke, who's the loveliest man I've ever met, and he's singing songs from Mary Poppins. It was crazy.
But we're still at the beginning. You just mentioned working with 4 Titans. I mean, really.
I know. Crazy.
Well, I want you to go find those guys in Chicago, which is where I was born, by the way, but I didn't grow up there, so we can't talk street corners.
Yeah.
And go talk to those guys who threw out the derogatory term about the drama class and the drama club, and tell them some stories about Betty White and Carol Burnett. My goodness, what a life.
Yeah. And it's funny, I have heard from people, I just did this big book tour, and it was just incredible. And I've done a lot of TV and film over the years. I'm used to what that world is and how that works with interviews and everything. The book tour was totally different, because you get there, you do a lot of TV film, a lot of TV interviews. That's great. But then a lot of them are, you do a live event, and then people they wait hours. God bless these people to get, I wouldn't wait 3 minutes for me. I don't know why anybody is waiting 2 hours. They did. But people showed up from my high school when I did Chicago. And there were people that were part of that, the drama fags. Who said, "Jim, you would have loved it." I go, I know it. I believe me, I know it. And it is a regret.
Okay, we're going to get to Parks and Rec, and I know you worked with Betty White and Carol Burnett and all that stuff, and we're going to talk about Amy Poehler, because she's not very funny. Did you work on the Rockford File movie? You did.
Oh my God!
And how about Jim Garner?
I did. I think wait a minute. Let me do a little in my brain. I believe I played a chef, because I remember being in a room. Yeah, I think I was a chef, and that was one of the first things I did, and I was terrified. Of course, terrified, because there he is. I mean, he's iconic, and so yes, I did do that. Yeah. Jealous much?
A little bit. Yeah, I worked with Rockford. I worked with Garner on a show called Nichols. He did a show called Nichols. It was a Western. Apparently, I'm the only one who remembers it. But yeah.
In this podcast or in this Zoom mission, you are the only one who remembers it. Yes.
Well,
Jonathan, is this episode we really just have to kiss his ass? Is this what goes on?
I have to do that weekly. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to see where we were so I can set the tone.
I got to ask you about you mentioned all these legends. There was one legend that you worked with that I absolutely love. You worked in the movie Ed with Jack Warden. I got to hear about Jack Warden, what he was like.
Well,
and your experience with that movie.
Thank God. He was amazing. The show was awful. The film was awful. And yet, because I talk about that in the book also, because I thought, that was my first film. I thought, wow, look at me. I am doing a major film. It's with Matt LeBlanc and like Jack Warden. And there was other people that I was blown away by too. It was a baseball movie, and I had to audition a whole bunch of times to get it, and then I finally book it. I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then I found out because they don't give you a script, they give you sides, they call it, which is your audition material. And then once I book it, we're going to do a table read. And then I get the script ahead of time, and it's with Matt LeBlanc and a monkey. It's a monkey playing. And all of a sudden I was like, oh. Okay. And this is in the time when Friends had just come out and it was the big hit.
Right.
It was off the charts. And so they were throwing things at these actors, LeBlanc and Aniston and all of them. They were like, give us. And so, but it was pretty great as far as I got to work with a Jack Warden who again, and he was old at the time when I worked with him. So he was already, but a great storyteller. And I was at the point where, like now I'm a chatterbox on set. People are probably so sick of me. But then I just would listen because I didn't know what was appropriate, what you should or shouldn't do. And so I would just sit and listen. And he told great stories. And at the, Matt LeBlanc, I knew him from Friends and only from Friends. And what I loved was you could see he was also doing what I was doing. He was just soaking in the wisdom of a Jack Warden because that's what that is. It's wisdom. They've been there forever. So yeah. And then there's also in regard to that movie, there's a story I tell in the book where the movie is finally going to have a premiere, and I'm excited. It's my first premiere of a movie, and my mother flies in, my sister flies in, friends are all coming to it. It's a big moment.
Sure.
And we get there and the movie stars, and they did this. The premiere was at Universal, near Universal Studios, and they set it up like a big baseball event. So the red carpet had all baseball memorabilia, and they were serving hot dogs and beer. And it was lovely. It was really fun. And then we were inside watching the movie, and I'm thinking, oh boy, I don't think this is very good. Like, holy crap. This monkey is so fake. Like there was just a lot of red. And then the movie's over, and I'm looking around to my family and friends, and I was getting the obligatory, great job. Like, everybody would be very kind. And then we start talking, and we said, oh my God, I think this is, this isn't good. So whatever. So now I'm heading out, and I see Matt, and, we catch eyes, and we come up, and he's like, what did you think? I said, wow, it's something, huh? And he goes, I think we got a winner here. And you guys, I truly thought, because I'm an idiot, well, he knows showbiz more than I do. He must be right. Like, what the hell do I know? What do my idiot friends know? They're all idiots. No, we knew more than Matt did. We knew way more than Matt did. Yeah.
Well, to his defense, you're working on something. Yeah. You see it through different goggles. If you want something so bad, you even if you're reading the script and you're actually in production, and a voice comes and says to you inside your head, this is not great. You can't 100%. Keep doing it unless you change your own mind and you start believing it's good, And
also you get too invested. I was in Spain this past summer and doing a film. I was so excited about it, and I still am. But people will say, well, what do you think? And I don't know now. I got so invested. I don't know if it's good. It's bad. I've seen a few, edits that they've sent me, and I think it's good. But I'm telling you, you get so in it that you don't know what's happening. It's like when you do a play, and before opening night, your friends are like, well, what do you think? I have no idea. When it comes toward opening night, I am so ensconced in everything we've been doing for the 3 or 4 weeks prepping for
Right.
it, to get to opening night. I never know. I never know.
Too
But I
close
will
to
tell
it.
you,
Yeah.
after I did the movie and, Ed, and it came out, it did terrible. Years later, on their final season of Friends, I was a guest star, and I walk on set, and Matt's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" Blah blah blah. And then he introduced me to the cast members, and he literally said, "You guys, Jim was in my shitty movie." So they all had shitty movies around that time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People were throwing things at them. Yeah, so he's a lovely man. Yeah,
it's funny if he were in Backwards World and came up to you and said, "This sitcom sucks." But you know what? Real quick, just to put a button on that, you're not sure, you're too close to it. You don't know what you're doing at the time. You're not even sure. I think it was, I want to say one of the cast members of Star Wars. I want to say Carrie Fisher. Somebody was like in the middle of shooting this, thinking, "What are we doing? Like this is just ridiculous." Yeah. And look. All right, so let's talk about parks and
let me just jump in real quick because I'm obnoxious and that's what I do. I just heard. Do you know who Donna Pescow is?
Oh yeah, Saturday Night Fever, and
exactly. So I just heard a podcast with her. Same thing. Nobody thought that movie was going to be anything. She said, "I was just told it was a little throwaway. Like she had no concept, and even people working on it had no concept. And then it turns out to be Saturday Night Fever. Right? Yeah. Come on." So yeah, you never know. You never know what the hell's.
I know. I did a movie with Donna, and it was a TV movie, but
she talked about you. It was
no, she didn't.
It was finally the interviewer said, "Okay, you got to talk about somebody else. Like this is too much. I want to hear about your career." But she was like, "No, he was on Bob Newhart. He played Little Howie." It was a whole thing. It really.
All right, wise guy. All right, let's talk about Parks and Rec. Did you initially audition for the role of Ron?
I did.
Is that right? See, we have internet connection.
But I will tell you, everybody. Wait, did you audition for it?
No, I turned it down.
Did you? Yeah. Good move. Good career move.
I don't act anymore, so no, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I did, but I will tell you, so did everybody else because there was a lot of heat around it. Because when I heard about it, it was called the Untitled Amy Poehler Project, and at this point, she's coming off of Saturday Night Live, and it's by the guy who brought in The Office from the UK, Greg Daniels, and with Mike Schur, who was also an SNL guy as well as The Office. So it had a lot of buzz, and I certainly wanted to get in there. And I will tell you, it was a who's who in the waiting room. I mean, everybody. This was a job people wanted, and as it turns out, the thought of anyone other than Nick Offerman playing that role just makes no sense in any world of anything. And they kind of always knew, and Mike Schur talks about it, and so does Greg in the book, how that all came to pass. Because the other guy who made it really close and was almost Ron Swanson was Mike O'Malley. You guys know who Mike is?
Yes.
Yeah. He's been around forever, and it was really close. But I think Nick was always their guy.
Well, how different was your take than?
Well, that's what's weird. There's so many of our interviews, our auditions rather, out there, and I can't find mine. I wish I could.
Oh wow!
I remember I certainly wasn't as stern as Nick ended up playing Ron. But whatever I brought to it was enough that when I left, they didn't hate me. And I will also tell you this, and this is for any young people who might be listening to this, any, actory kind of people, performers. My goal, I mean, you always want to get a job if you can get it, but my true goal that day was, I'm thinking they're never giving Jim O'Heir one of the co-leads in this new Amy Poehler project. Isn't going to happen. But I want to impress Greg and Mike because these are guys who have a lot of power. They are creating a new show that I could maybe guest star in down the line. They're doing The Office, which, hey, put me on The Office. Let me guest star. I just wanted to impress these guys. And so I do remember leaving the audition because normally when an actor leaves an audition, at least this crazy actor, I'll sit in the car. I'll redo the damn audition another 20 times, as if anything's going to change. It's already over. The damn audition is over, and I'm redoing the lines. But I left there thinking, good. you 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 made a nice connection with these two men. And also Allison Jones was the casting director, who always want to impress the casting director because they're the ones making the decision on who's coming in the room. And so I felt good. I felt really good, but not like thinking anything as far as getting the job. I just thought you did what you wanted to do. These guys think you're okay. And then weeks, we get the call, would Jim consider auditioning for this other role on the show? Well, of course. And then when I show up for that one, it was a room full of, because generally if I go into a room, I know who's going to be there. It's going to be the big guys. You know what I mean? It's going to be my type. It wasn't. It was Hispanic and Asian and white, and it was big and fat and small and large. It was everybody, which was it was a little like, whoa, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's opening up the door a lot more to other options for them, which is a little scary. But then I got in the room again with them, and it was that same vibe. And what I had going, I always think it's good to have something to chat about. And the last gig I did in Chicago before I moved to LA was a voice job with Steve Carell. So we had that kind of, I could bring Steve into the mix, like, oh, I've worked with Steve and all that kind of stuff. And so whatever happened. And then I found out during the process of writing this book, because I interviewed all of them, the casting director, and Allison, I found out, and this just warmed my heart. She called Mike and said, you have to see Jim O'Heir. Like she pushed me. Like I that was just lovely. I didn't know that. And Mike and Greg said to me during the interviews, they go, yeah, when you left, we were like, yeah, he's our guy. He's funny. We'll figure it out. Because there was no part for me yet. They had to create the material for me to audition with, because it didn't exist. And they just said, put him at a desk, it'll work out. So it's all so crazy.
So your approach and your advice to actors out there is phenomenal, because you're a smart man. I just want to impress these people, and wherever it goes from there, because if it's not this one, it's something down the road, or it's something tomorrow, but it's not this job. It's something Allison has over here. That's very wise. It's very wise.
Because there's so many reasons why we don't get a job. I mean, there's so many reasons. It's okay. They've already got another guy. He's kind of a big guy. We can't go with two big guys. Or again, the old thing. Oh, he looks like my brother-in-law. I hate my brother-in-law. I'm not going to cast him. I mean, there's so many reasons. It can be, no, we have to go a person of color. Like you don't know why. You can't take it all personal.
Absolutely.
So you just have to hope that they have something else down the road. If this isn't the one for you, that they're going to go, yeah, like just even today, perfect example, a gig came in for April. This is something a show I had auditioned for ages ago, didn't get, and now they're making an offer. It's just
congratulations.
To me, I'm all about that. Like,
I have the same. I used to be a literary agent, and I always told authors the same thing: don't give them a reason not to take you on. There's so many things that just don't do all the little things that might annoy them, or might just they're already looking for someone else to bypass you. Don't give them that reason.
Right. 100%, absolutely.
So, Jim, on Parks, correct me if I'm wrong. In the beginning, it seemed like you did have a character that was a little bit of a side character, maybe not, in the forefront at all times.
Yeah, it was, first of all, it was a big concern for my agents. And, I can only praise them for this, because they weren't trying to be idiots. But so we get the call, they want to offer Jim this job, as Jerry Parks and Rec. They were very honest. The show was very honest and said, we don't know what this is. We don't know what this character is. We're trying to fill space in the office. And so my agent said to me, Jim, we're not sure if you should take this, because, at this point I have a decent career. I'm a working journeyman actor. I'm going from guest spot to guest spot. I'm doing pilots. Some, most get thrown away after you shoot them. You never see them again. Yeah. But I'm doing okay, and my bills are paid. And they said, they are telling us they're not sure what this is, and you might feel like you're being more of a background player. And I'm not knocking background players, extras. You need them. We love them. But at this point in my career, I was, I was a guest star. I wouldn't even I think at that point I wasn't even doing co-stars. It would only be a guest star. Yeah. And they said, so we're not sure if you should do this. But you guys, here's where my brain was. I was obsessed with The Office. I love The Office. And I started watching it because of Carell, like, hey, a Chicago guy that I know. Wow, how exciting. And I immediately was hooked, with the show, like most people. And I saw what was happening to your Kevins and your Phyllis and your Stanley. These were little minor background players that these people were now developing into their world. So for me, I didn't hesitate for a second. That I am on board. If it feels bad, we'll get out down the road. We're not signing a contract. We're week to week. So I can at any point go, yeah, no, this does not feel good. I feel like whatever. But I saw very quickly, they started, we only did 6 episodes the first season. And at the end of the season, they needed to do some opener stuff. And apparently a lot of people were out of town already. So they called my agent and said, would Jim be willing to go into the forest with Amy and Aziz and just do some improv stuff? And we got to get some stuff for the opening and the closings. And I said, yeah. Well, I was terrified. Yeah, I'm about to do, total improv with the Queen, Amy, and Aziz, who, this funny superhuman. And I knew that day, I'm in. We gelled. It was all good. And then, as Morgan will tell you in the book, he was our line producer. It was said that day to somebody said, oh yeah, he'll do okay. Like they knew then that I was going to be there. And by season 2, I got a storyline, and I got the A story, which doesn't generally happen to a background player. And some of the Office people, because I've gotten to know all of them, they're just so great. And they were like, how dare you? It took us 4 seasons to get to be in the A story. I go, hey people, when they see it, they write to it. You know what I'm saying?
Just like you were talking about the surrounding characters on The Office, and your one audition where they had different types of people, a Hispanic or short guy or whatever. Sometimes they don't know what they want. They just know they want funny. They want interesting, and then you just brought it. And I mean, that's a great, also another great thing for young actors and actresses to understand when they go in and don't look around and psych themselves out. They're not right for it. I think George Costanza was going to be. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask about Jerry, because to me there were 2 distinct tone changes in the show. The first was after season 1, where all the characters started to become a little more defined, and the second was after season 2, when Mark left and Rob Lowe and Adam Scott came in. So do you remember feeling like the tones changed a little, and conversations about your character's evolution? Because Jerry definitely was not the same as later on as he was at the beginning.
Yeah, it was. You're totally right. As a matter of fact, and I, I'm a big fan of season 1 in many ways, but I have many times said to people, start if they haven't seen it. I'm like, start with season 2 and then go back to season 1, because season 1 is only 6 episodes. It's not like it's a 22.
It's like a different show almost.
It's like here's the thing. Here's the good and the bad of what happened. The good is NBC says to Greg Daniels, we want an Office spinoff. Great. And he's like, okay. So he gets together with Mike Schur. But as they're talking, they're like, we don't really feel like we want to do an Office spinoff. We want to do something, and we want to shoot the same style, the mockumentary with the cameras in our faces and everything. But we don't necessarily want to do an Office spinoff. And so they had said, however it all works, it's all in the book. They tell you how they ended up doing it. But they talk to the network, and they come up with this idea. Instead of being in the private sector like Dunder Mifflin, they want to be in government. So this is how they end up in the Parks and Recreation Department. Well, NBC says to them, let's go. Let's shoot 6 of them. No, actually, initially 13. They were initially given a 13-episode order. That does not happen. You have to do a pilot generally, and then they make a decision from the pilot. That didn't happen. And then they weren't going to do it. And again, this is all in the book. I learned so much stuff that I never knew how this show came together, because Mike and Greg just sat down with me and gave me all the good stuff. So they initially, imagine this, they're being told they're going to premiere after the Super Bowl. They're going to show the Super Bowl, then The Office, and then Parks and Rec. And they turned it down because they felt they wanted to wait for Amy Poehler, who was pregnant. you don't turn down that slot, but they did. So anyway, so because of the pregnancy and everything, we can only do 6 of them, but it's an on-air order. That doesn't happen. But this is what's happening. So that's the good part. The bad part about that is you start shooting and you're shooting and you're shooting, and we do 6 of them. Well, you don't get that 20-minute pilot to figure out what works and what doesn't, because we're already shooting. We're just assuming it's all going to work. And so at the very beginning, a lot of people were turned off by Leslie because they said she was too much like Michael Scott, and they already have a Michael Scott. Well, that was never the intention, but it is how it was coming across. I mean, facts are facts. So we wrap season 1, these geniuses regroup, and then we get the Leslie Knope that we have come to love at the beginning of season 2. And so, yeah, the same with all the characters. And, when Paul left, Mark Morandanowitz, it's such a strange thing because Paul is awesome. He's so damn talented. He's such a good actor. But I always say this, and I love doing TV, film, theater. I love it all. But if someone said, where do you think you belong? It's probably television. I think some of us lean more toward a certain thing. And I think Paul leans more toward film, because Paul's the kind of actor who can spend 2 hours the night before on 5 lines, prepping and prepping and prepping, where with a sitcom, they're changing those damn lines. Like, you could be there and they're like, okay, that didn't work. Now we just wrote this, and you got to spew it out. But what is strange, because as much as I love Paul there, I almost forget that Adam and Rob weren't always part of the show. I truly, and I've done so many interviews over because of the book, I forget. And that's not a slight to Paul at all, because he was awesome. I just think they were such a perfect addition. It just gave the show exactly what it needed.
What's it like for all of you when Rob Lowe joins the cast? I mean, he was already a huge star at that point. So what's it,
It's, as I say in the book, it's Rob fucking Lowe. Like, and I remember that he came in for the first table read. Him and Adam came in, and of course I learned this also. There's so many fun things that I learned after the first table read. Aubrey sent Adam a message, and it said, "Get out now." I mean, is that perfect coming from Aubrey? Like, it's just so. It's so
yeah.
But no, but yeah. So there we are sitting there, and here comes Rob Lowe. Well, I know of Rob Lowe forever, like, Outsiders, different TV shows forever. And anyway, we could go on and on over his resume. So it was weird because, I'm always grateful when I'm working. And at this point, they came in, I think around episode, this is a guess, around 20. So we've already done 20 of them. And, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable. These are my people now. But Rob walks in, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, am I worthy? Like, it was all very strange. And then, of course, you get to know him, and you're like, he's like the rest of it. That quickly goes away. Well, I shouldn't say quickly. It lasted a while.
Well, speaking of big stars, I just want to know, like, not a bad gig to play opposite of Christy Brinkley as your love interest. So how did that all come about?
What's her name again? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, let me look her up. I think she's done a couple of things.
That was to this day, I still, first of all, it's one of the big running gags in the show. How the hell did Terry get Christy Brinkley? But the way it came about was we had done a table read for whatever episode, and Mike said to me afterwards, he goes, "Listen, we're thinking about meeting Jerry's family." I said, "Oh, wow." Which, first of all, as an actor, you want that, because backstory is good. That means you're not going anywhere. They're looking to introduce other people from your world.
They're building a set for your family. So they don't want to throw the lumber away. Yeah.
Yes. So I was like, wow, in my head. Yeah. And he said, now imagine. So, I'm sure at the moment, I can't think exact, but I'm sure at the moment I was thinking, it'll be, a very Midwestern kind of woman, whatever, my match. And he goes, "We're thinking of a Christy Brinkley type." I go, "What?" Like, I put the camera on me, because I'm sure it was like, what are you saying? And he goes, "We're thinking of a Christy Brinkley type." And then he explains his, the theory behind it.
Yeah.
What people don't get is when I was young, she was on my wall. Like she did this one piece red bathing suit spread, and it was on my wall. Like, what are we talking about? You're bringing her into play. You're going to try to bring someone like her to play my wife. So the thing that it's weird in the industry, like at the end of every table read, we could pitch ideas for we'd see whatever the role was in that episode, a guest role. We go, oh, what about this person? What about that person? You could pitch people. When he said to me, a Christy Brinkley type, he meant that. Like the odds of getting Christy aren't going to be very good. What are the odds? Well, apparently the odds were really good because when they reached out to her, she had never heard of it, never heard of Parks and Rec, but her daughter's Sailor. So she said to Sailor, well, they want me to do this TV show called Parks and Recreation. And Sailor goes, oh my God, I'm on Parks and Recreation? She goes, yes. And she goes, oh, you have to do it. I love that show. And then Christy said to her, well, they want me to play somebody's wife. And Sailor said to me later, she goes, I'm thinking, wait a minute, who doesn't have a girlfriend? But and she's going there, and all of a sudden she goes, Jerry Gergich? And she goes, yes, Mrs. Gergich. She goes, Mom, that's Jerry. Anyway, so Chrissy only did it because her daughter convinced her she should do the show.
How awesome.
So yeah, and then of course I felt terrible for Christy. Like she's got to play my wife? Like that's not fair. But it was she's so lovely. And I talk about this in the book too, but the day she showed up on set, the first day, I really was thinking, oh, this poor woman, like, she's, she dates the creme de la creme and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to be playing her husband. This limo pulls up and at the studio over at CBS Radford. Mm-hmm. Gets out of the car. She's looking around and we catch eyes and she looks at me and she goes, my Mr. Gergich. And she comes over and she gives me the biggest hug. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's who Christy is. She's light and love. I mean, she really, this is who she is as a human being. So yeah, but that was unbelievable. And one of my favorite running gags in the show is Ben trying to figure out how we are together. Like how is it possible? Like when he meets her at the Christmas party, he's like,
that was good. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's Jim. That's a very sad story, and I'm really glad that after
I'm sorry I'm so weepy. Yeah,
you still picked yourself up off the ground and continued in show business after Christy Brinkley got out of a limo and gave you a hug. Yes. Wow, way to keep going. You know what? You're just a champ.
I am not. You know what? I'm a fighter.
Yeah. Chris Pratt recently came out and talked about the show and talked about how he felt the characters were too mean to Jerry.
Yeah. He's in the book. He's in the book too. He talks about it there. Not overall. There would be moments he would say to me, Jimmy, this one seems really mean. Yeah. And I'd be like, dude, it's funny. We're all making a lot of money. It's all good. Because I will tell you, there was never anything that bothered me. Like it bothered the cast more than it ever bothered me. Mm-hmm. Amy was very much the mother on the set, and as far as checking in with us, and she'd go like, there's a scene. This is a famous Jerry scene where I pretend that I was mugged because spoiler alert, pretend that I was mugged, and then I go back to the office and I have to give a presentation. I bend over. My pants split and I fart. Like, the table reads over and Amy comes up and she goes, Jim, are you comfortable with that? And I said, oh my God, I was born for that. Are you kidding me? So they were way more concerned than I was.
That's nice though.
But we were also on a set that at any point, if I felt anything was weird, I could have said, not comfortable. And it would have been gone. We never had any craziness. People were allowed to say, oh, what about this? What about that? We could have input. It was unlike any show I had ever been on because, shows run how they run. And I'm always very accommodating. I've been in, there's different types. I get calls sometimes and, before showing up on set, they want you to know that they're what's called word for word, which means you better know your shit. You better know all your stuff when you get there. And I always do. I'm happy to do that. I love when a show lets you play around a little after they get what they need. And that's what we got to do on Parks. So yes, Pratt is such a sweet human being and he's got a big heart and he would be checking in with me. He did a thing once that this is so crazy because it goes to show who he is just as a human. So I get a text one day, this is a couple of years ago, and he goes, hey, how you doing? Because we have this text chain, the Parks and Rec text chain, where we're all to this day, we're constantly, this is going on, that's going on. We've never broken that off. But this was a separate text just to me. Hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Yeah, I'm good. What's going on? He goes, no, I just wanted to check in on you. And I go, it felt like something. He goes, oh, I had a weird dream. And I go, did I die in your dream? He goes, yes. I go, I'm fine. But I mean, the guy had a dream that I died and he had to check in on me.
He reached out.
What
a sweet guy.
That's a sweet man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of him, like toward the end, that's when Guardians came about and he exploded. I mean, so did anyone see that coming on the set? Is anyone just like, I could see.
Like, I always know he was funny and talented, of course. But could anyone predict superstardom? Because he's not just a well-known actor. He is a worldwide superstar. He's Guardian of the Galaxy. He's Jurassic Park. He's got I think he's got 4 franchises. Sure. That's amazing. So no, because I couldn't predict that for anybody. But did I know he was crazy talented? Yes. Did I know that he deserves all this? 100%. He's so funny. And I remember when, we all went to the premiere of Guardians, and it was so wild for a couple of reasons. One, they introduced the cast before the movie started, and the way they do those introductions are according to where you are in a film, as far as, who's most important, whatever. And these people are coming out, and they're coming out. And then there's this one, and this one, Glenn Close. And Pratt isn't even up here. It's like, damn. And then all of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Pratt. And then the movie started. And I don't know if you can remember, but the opening of the first Guardians, it's just Pratt with a Walkman doing his thing. And I thought, damn, I already knew this director's a genius. He's letting Pratt do Pratt. And there's nothing funnier or better than when Pratt gets to do Pratt. And so yeah, but yeah, did I ever expect it? No, I couldn't expect that of anybody. Yeah. That it's above and beyond. I mean, we did. I think it might have even been after that premiere. We were all texting afterwards. Pratt, great job, great job. He couldn't even hang at the party because he was going on. He texted us this little video, and he's on a jet, some private jet. And he goes, I'm not even sure where they're taking me. Like, his world had blown up because he was doing. It turns out it was Japan. He was heading off to promote it in another country. So I don't know, but is it deserved? 100%.
I still think Guardians is the best Marvel movie. I still.
Yeah, I think it's great. Totally agree.
Let me just ask. I'm going to go back to this. What's her name? Amy Poehler.
I'm sorry, that name again?
Amy Poehler.
Wait, let me.
I gotta say.
Let me check.
Google it.
Oh, hurry! No, I just looked her up. Yeah, I know.
So, Jim, when you were talking about how they turned down the Super Bowl slot because they were waiting for Amy, right? I get that. Amy Poehler, when she first came on the scene, as far as my eyes, this was years ago. I believe I remember seeing her on the old Conan O'Brien talk show. She had braces. She was this little girl who was stalking Conan O'Brien.
Yeah.
And she would just do these little bits here and there, maybe 1 or 2 a week. And I remember, this is before anyone knew her name, going, okay, that girl, she's just committed in her sketch. She was good. Oh yeah, I'm a late night talk show, always been. And I remember thinking, that girl, man, she's good. And they were giving her more and more and more. She ended up on SNL and all these other things. And she's so big. So what's she like to work with? I mean, you already gave us a little hint, she was protective over, how mean characters might be, but give us a little Amy Poehler.
She's a bitch.
Yeah,
she's the worst. The worst. No, the thing about Amy is we know she's talented and pretty and a great writer and all the good stuff. But more importantly, she's one of the greatest human beings on this planet. I'm not just making that up because the things I've seen that she's done for friends. Recently, I'm not going to get into it, but there was a pretty nasty tragedy in our world. And I don't know. I just remember hugging her going, there's no better friend in the world than you. What she did for different people. She's caring. So it's all great that whatever talents people have, but to be a good human, I think is kind of at the top of the list.
Mhm.
And Amy is at the absolute top of that list. She did for me recently, when the book came out, she did this live event with me and she just tore it apart. I mean, this to this day, they keep replaying it. So I have to keep signing more books because she just, anyway, I could go on and on about it. She's just an amazing human being. And somebody said to me after they read the book, they go, boy, kiss her ass much? And I said, I'm not kissing her ass. I'm just telling you the person that she is. I mean, this is who she is. So yeah, I could go on and on about her. And she's something.
That's great to hear. She's so talented. I mean,
Yes.
obviously she has the talent, take material, make it funny. Yeah. But if you just like, you watch her present at an award show with her buddy Tina Fey, or
Yes.
or on a talk show, she's one of those people that just has these natural instincts that just
She's
fantastic.
all of that, and she's smart about business. She gave me some great advice about a film years ago that I'm so glad I took. She's just smart. Like and she's got, her parents are like these great people. And recently she sent me a picture and she goes, look who loves your book. And it was a picture of her dad reading the book.
Wow.
Like it was just,
That's
anyway,
great.
yeah. She's not, I've been around, as we've said over, this podcast, I've done a lot of different things. You don't meet many Amy Poehlers. They're just not out there. And when you do, you climb on because you're so glad. It's such a gift.
Going back to Parks, I'm going to call it Parks and not the whole title because I'm trying to be cool and time is money.
You're very cool. You're very
Thank
cool.
you. No, you did what was scripted to get that in the can, right? And am I wrong about this? Did you also go, okay, now let's just do a little, improvisation here and a little ad lib, and how much of that ad lib, if you did, made it in, you think?
Well, we did it's called the fun run. And so after a scene was done and everybody was happy, director, right? Because not every show does this, but some do, some don't. But on Parks, the writer of the episode would be on set for the whole thing. Because sometimes you're like, oh, this bit isn't really working. And then everybody kind of huddles and, the writer will come out and, come up with alternatives,
An
different
alt line,
an alt line. So, so the writer was happy, the director was happy, the cast was happy. It'd be like, okay, fun run. And fun run just basically meant do whatever the hell you want to do. We know where the scene's got to go because we're not just making up a whole new storyline. We already know what we're doing here, but we can do it and we can add whatever. And the craziest shit happened during a fun run. I mean, first of all, sometimes they'd go on for 15 minutes. The whole episode is only 21. So, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. They wouldn't cut us off because I truly believe one of the main reasons we've stayed as close as we have is because we got to play every day we played. Because when you're doing improv, you're playing. That's just what it is. And, like any improv, some works, some doesn't. But as far as how much made it in, I got to tell you, those scripts were strong. They didn't need us.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, occasionally a line or two. Mike Schur will tell you the greatest line never written was by Pratt when it was Leslie had the flu and she was leaving the office and Andy Dwyer, Chris Pratt, was looking up her symptoms on the internet. And he said, according to this, you have connectivity issues. And Mike said it's one of the funniest lines never written for Parks and Rec. So sometimes they would make it in, but in general, those scripts were brilliant. They didn't need us.
I have to ask you about Chris Pratt with one thing. Okay, whenever you're on social media, they always have like different bloopers from different shows. The one on social media, the one that I see more than any other is the Chris Pratt one with the Kardashians. Was that totally off the cuff? Because your reactions were priceless. I mean, just
100% off the cuff.
You could tell it was.
First of all, none of us are that good of actors. I mean, even Amy and Rashida are like, oh God, because they'd give us the boys look sometimes, like, oh God, here we go. But the great part about the girls on Parks, well, all of us, we all kind of had the same sense of humor. So there was there was a lot of eye rolling, like, oh boy, with the girls, with the guys. They were so great. But no, that could not have been more real. That reaction could not have been more real. But what I will tell you is that is the kind of stuff that went on every day. And when we would do, my favorite scenes were always in the conference room, because I'm just telling you, those kind of one-liners, that kind of stupid stuff, we're telling stories. went on all the time. So yes, that was in.
Let's talk about the book. Okay, so again, I've been going through it this week. So fantastic, so many great stories. Again, for the name, let's get it out there. Welcome to Pawnee, stories of friendship, waffles, and parks and recreation. So what prompted you to write it?
I can't take any credit. I got these agents out of New York, these book agents reached out. I hadn't even thought about it. And they said, the anniversary's coming up in a couple of years. What are your thoughts? I go, oh, I don't know. What do I have to say? And they said, well, we've seen you on different shows and you tell stories and we think there might be something there. So what they decided to do was, because I said, well, I don't know if there's something there. And they said, why don't we do this? Why don't we set up a 2-hour Zoom call? We'll ask you questions and just tell us some stuff, and we'll see if we think there's a book. So we set this up. We start the call 30 minutes after the call, into the call. Now it's planned for 2 hours. They go, Jim, hold on. We can keep going, but just so you know, we have a book. We're good. Like we could stop here or keep going, but there is a book here. Just because, my stories, and I also told stories of other shows I've been on and crazy things that happened there and people I've met over the years. I mean, it's definitely a parks-centric book, but it's also a bit of a memoir, stories of my own life and little, there's James Spader stories and Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore and there's other stories too. But anyway, so that's when I was like, oh, well, I guess there is. And so it took 2 years from that meeting until I was doing the book tour.
Wow.
I learned so much. I didn't know how books. I mean, you're saying, Jonathan, you've been in that world, that publishing world. It was new to me. Wow, and it's a whole thing. And hurry, and then you wait around for months to hear anything. It was a whole thing, and then you sign a contract and you have your deadlines. And I was 2 weeks late on my final deadline, and I was a wreck. Like, oh, I can't believe I'm 2 weeks late because I really like to be a punctual person. And I found out later, 2 weeks late is 2 months early in the world of books.
I was going to say, publishing moves at a snail's pace for real until they need something, and it's yesterday. That's it. Yes.
Because then I get these emails, Jim, we have to. I'm like, well, I had it for 3 months. But yes, so I've learned a lot, about how it works. And it's funny because, Nick and Ozzy and Rob, I talked to all of them because they had done books, and Amy had done a book, not about parks, but they had done their own books, and they were all giving me their advice. And Nick said afterward, he goes, oh yeah, one time I turned something in 4 months late. I'm like, 4 months? I would have been sleeping. I was upset over 2 weeks. So, it is what it is. In the book world, I didn't know how this happened either, but they put it on auction. So after we decided to do it, the agents put together a proposal, sent it out to all the publishers, and then the publishers read it, and either they have an interest or not. And if they do, they're going to meet with me on a Zoom call. And he said, each one will go about 45 minutes. So we set that up, and they all wanted to meet. It was lovely. Everybody, all the big ones, Penguin and Simon and Schuster, all the big ones. It was great. None of my calls went less than an hour and a half because I'm a rambler, as you can tell. I just chat. And so then, apparently, down the road, they put it on auction, and then people bid on it. Again, I know none of this. I don't know how this works other than it's going to go on auction. So I remember I was it was a Friday, and I was heading to Denver. I think I was judging a film festival or something. And so I'm getting on the plane, and I'm thinking, wow, when I get off this plane, I might have a book deal. Woo, ain't I something? Look at me.
Incredible.
I'm like all excited. 2.5 hours later, the plane lands. Not a call, not a text, nothing. So it was like, but it was deflated quickly. And I thought, oh well, whatever. Nothing lost other than some time with these interviews.
Right.
So the day I'm in Denver, and I'm bouncing around there, having to do whatever they want me to do. And then I remember being in the hotel because there was some dinner that I had to get ready to go to. And I get a text from that book agent to me and my manager and said, can you guys hop on a quick call? I said, sure. I get on the call, he goes, hey, how you guys doing? I said, I've had better days. He goes, oh, what's going on? I said, well, obviously nobody had the same interest in the book as we thought they might. And he goes, what are you talking about? So wasn't it today, the auction? He goes, yeah. It ended 10 minutes ago. I go, what? He goes, Jim, it goes on all day. I never knew this.
Oh, you didn't know that.
Apparently, someone makes an offer and then the other people find out about it and then they go back and they talk to
they just posted it, right?
It goes, this is an all-day event. I had no idea. So I said, oh, so did somebody want it? And he goes, everyone you spoke with wants the book. I said, damn. Like then I was like, wow. So yeah, and everybody did. Everybody had bid.
That's
and then,
fantastic.
Yeah, and then they wheedle, and then they work around and the agent says, here's who,
That's also who you feel comfortable with. Yeah,
exactly. And,
right.
and who they work a lot with. And anyway, so I went with HarperCollins. William Morrow is the subdivision. I've also learned there's 1,000 subdivisions. Like, holy crap.
Yes, there are.
One book could be represented by 20 different.
It's not like how it used to be. It's right. It's total changed world power. So I want to ask, there have been so many great guest stars over the course of the show. Who are some of the best that just came in and fit right in with everyone?
Wow, so many. Who the one that like just kind of rocked my world a little bit, and he was only there for a day, but because he was so gracious and so into it, was Bill Murray. Like Bill Murray, again, I'm an SNL guy. Like I was honored to be on the stage when I first started taking classes that he had stood on, so that was and we didn't even know if he was showing up. He doesn't have agents and stuff. It's all crazy. Amy and Aubrey were texting with him. I don't know how they knew him, but he showed up and he was so into it. He stayed around even after his scenes watching us work. So that was crazy. But like Catherine Hahn, just genius.
Right too, yeah.
And she recurred. Oh God. Oh, help me here, guys. Ant-Man.
Oh, Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
Yes.
He so perfectly fit in with us. John Hamm. So many. I mean, just Retta, who played Don Amigo,
right.
recently did a live event for the book, and we did a big Q&A with all these people. And somebody said, "Did we ever have anyone we didn't like?" We really didn't. I mean, there's some you like more than others, but there was never like, because I've been on shows where it's like, ooh, I never need to see that person again. We never really had that. So but some are just, I mean, Christy Brinkley again. Oh, and Mo Collins, who played Joan Calamezzo. My God, try to find somebody funnier than her. It's not possible. Just so many. It's just so many who came in and were flawless.
That's awesome.
And I can tell you, we became a show that the word got out what a great set it was. And people wanted to be on that show. Like actors would say to me, man, I've been telling my agent to get me on this for months because the word was out. Because when you walk into our set, like, your first introduction is generally hair and makeup. You walk into hair and makeup and because we not never, but generally did not have guest stars at the table reads. We generally didn't. There was a few occasions where we did, but in general we didn't. And so the first time you're meeting these people is at hair and makeup. If you were sitting in a chair, I guarantee you every one of the series regulars went up and greeted you. Hey, what's going on? What part are you playing? Blah, blah, blah. That, I guarantee that happened. I have been on shows where they don't even look at you. I mean, you're in that hair and makeup and you know who people are. Like if you're on a show that you're like, oh, there's so-and-so. Not a hello. One show that I did, I won't even get into the name of it, but I thought, wow, I wouldn't want to be here. Life happens and sadness happens and families and deaths and divorces and life happens. We walked in with a smile on our faces, ready to work. I just saw Adam, Adam Scott's doing a lot of press now for Severance. And I just because, and again, I know he feels this way because we all talk about it, but he said in this interview how much he misses it. He goes, those were 5 years of just special. Family. And it really, really was. It was not typical. I've been around. It was not typical.
Well, I want to ask about you, that you won a daytime Emmy. So what's it like?
Did.
Yes, what's it like for you to get, recognized like that?
It's so weird because, for those who don't know, there have been these terrible fires in LA and I did get evacuated and somebody said, did you grant your Emmy? And it was so weird because at first I didn't. And then a friend of mine said, because the word got out that I was evacuating and, people are what can we do? What can we do? I'm like, nothing. There's orange sky. I just got to go. There's nothing anybody can do. And thankfully I'm home and it all worked out. I'm very grateful. But a friend of mine said, don't leave without that Emmy. And so I went back and grabbed it. Yeah, so I did leave with it. It was really strange because after Parks, things were, you're on a show every week for, all those years, and it's easier to get work. You're given offers. You're not having to fight for every job. Though I still auditioned depending on what the job was, because to this day, I mean, I'm happy to fight for a job anytime. It's always nice when they just offer, but I'm always happy to fight for a job. And so a lot of different stuff was coming in. And then I got this call to do, they kind of wanted to do like a funny thing with me and Monica Horan, who played the character on Everybody Loves Raymond. She was the brother's
yes,
wife.
yes.
She's married to the guy who created Everybody Loves Raymond. Anyway, they said, these are two familiar faces. We're thinking we're going to bring them in. You guys are going to play these travelers who kind of bring a funny bit to the world of Bold and the Beautiful. Okay, that sounds fun. I had never been on a soap opera. That sounds like that could be interesting. And it was. And it's so crazy. They work so hard. They learn so much material in such a short amount of time. Like, it's crazy. These soap people, they do not get the credit they deserve. They just don't.
Oh my
God. They're amazing. And so we do it, and whatever, life goes on. And then I'm heading to, I was heading to Chicago to do some gig, and they had sent a car for me. So I'm in the car and the phone rings and it says CBS Studios. I'm like, well, that's an odd thing, because normally I don't answer if I don't know, but CBS, I'm like, well, this is business related. So I said, hello. And he said, hi, Jim, this is somebody Bell from Bold and the Beautiful, and I want to congratulate you on your nomination for the Emmy.
Fantastic.
I go, what? He goes, you're not, like, I wasn't looking, like when during Parks run, I would get up and listen to the Emmy nominations to see if we were nominated. I didn't even know this was happening. I knew nothing. And now I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, this is one of my idiot friends, and they're busting my balls. So while he's chatting, I'm on my phone looking, and there it is. Like, anyway, so I got a nomination. I thought, well, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So now it's getting closer to the actual Emmy event, and I'm not going to go because friends of mine, these two comedians who you would know, for the first time they were going to do a show together. And I thought, oh, I want to be there. That's going to be amazing. And this Emmy thing, they're certainly not giving me the Emmy, so that it's okay that I'm not there. So the word gets out that I'm not going to go, and then see the people at the show call and say, we'd really love it if you would represent us and be there. And okay, I'll just make it work. And so I figured out with my publicist, he said, he figured it out. He goes, your category is going to be at like 5:35 around that time. And then after, do the obligatory clap and then get the hell out of there. So I said, okay, that'll be the plan. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting there, and though it was weird because when I sat down, I had like this really great seat. And I remember when we would go for Parks, we'd get our seats, and Nick Offerman, who had gone to so many Emmys because of his wife, Megan, who did Will and Grace, and they always won. He goes, so the first time we go to the Emmys, he's looking around and he goes, you guys, these are not winners' seats. These are not. And then the next year we get the same damn seats. So we're like, oh, we ain't winning. But I get to these Emmys and I got a really good seat. I thought, well, I don't know, whatever. So now it's coming up. I'm keeping a clock. I told the driver, I said, listen, I'm probably going to be out of here around 5:45, and then you can take me to this event. He said, great. Larry King is up there with, I forget, it was one of the morning news people. I forget exactly, and they're chatting, and they go, now in the category of guest star in a whatever, in daytime drama. And they're showing these clips of people, and these people are amazing. They're crying and they're screaming because they're, it's so dramatic. It's daytime television, and I'm like, wow, they're so good. Yes, give it to him. And then they would show somebody else. I'm like, oh God, give it to her. She's unbelievable. Yeah. Like, and then they show my bit, and I'm like, oh God, just move on, move on. And then, okay, and the winner is, he pauses, Jim O'Hare. And I truly, you can find this online somewhere. I didn't know what is happening. I thought truly thought in my head, wow, that's a familiar name. Like none of it made sense to me. And then finally,
Right.
the girl next to me, who was an actress on the show, shook me. She goes, "You won."
You.
What? Like none of it made sense. It made no sense. But I was, of course, shockingly, shocked and grateful. So I start walking up there, and then as I'm walking up there, I'm like, "You dumbass! I have planned nothing. I'm thinking I'm heading in a car in 5
That's the
minutes.
best time.
I was just going to do because they put the cameras on your
Right.
face. They run to everybody, and the camera's here, and I'm ready to go. Oh, and give the happy look, and I really would have been happy because I never expected it. So as I'm running, I'm thinking two things: come up with something to say, come on, and then also don't fall, because if a fat guy falls, it's going to be on television forever. Don't fall on those stairs. So I go up the stairs, and then the whole time I'm just, you shake Larry's hand. Lisa Gibbons. That's who was the other presenter. Lisa Gibbons. And so I remember, chatting with them, but the whole time my brain is going, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? And then I just kind of had this moment. I was like, just speak from the heart. I don't know. And then I kind of did that. I thanked my reps, of course, all those people. And then I remember I put the statue down and I said, this is for all of you soap opera actors. And I did this, and I did like a bow. I said, I never knew how hard you worked. And I didn't say this, but let's face it, soap actors, I don't know, they don't get the same justice that a primetime actor does. It's not fair, but it is what it is.
They're literally, without exaggeration, doing 6 times the pages per day, if not more.
Dude, easily.
Oh my God, it's crazy. There's got
crazy. Yeah, no, I was blown away. And so anyway, I won that effing Emmy. So it was one. And then I ended up doing a couple more of the episodes, and they're lovely people. And I don't know, it's just that's crazy. But yeah, so it's weird when I'm introduced anywhere. Like the first time I did, I think Kimmel, after, ladies and gentlemen, Emmy Award winner.
Right.
What? Like you forget, but I'm happy to have it.
Well, I have to ask you, before we let you go, I have to ask you about one credit of yours where you worked with some real heavy hitters. Look at this cast. Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, Daniel Craig, directed by Steven Soderbergh, Logan Lucky. So what was that whole experience like for you? I mean,
that was ridiculous. I was doing a theater gig in Kansas City. They said, would you audition for this Soderbergh film? Yeah. What are the odds of me getting that? Well, the odds are I got it. So I get the role. It's going to shoot in Atlanta. The cast, like you just said, is unbelievable. What? Then I'm on the plane, and they have to, you fly first class. It's all lovely. And I had a panic attack take over because I had convinced myself a terrible mistake has been made, and Soderbergh thinks I'm somebody else, and that when I show up, he is going to go, who is this? Like, I really had put this whole story in my head. And they had also, a month before I even went, they had me working with a vocal coach because they wanted in this vocal coach's words, a very specific Southern accent. Well, I'm not great with accents. I can do basics, but I'm not great. So she's been working with me, sending me tapes, doing stuff over the phone. And she's telling me, Channing, he's got it down. Channing Tatum, Chan has it down. And, wait till you hear him, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh God, oh my God. And I don't think I'm nailing it. So everything worked up to this perfect storm of, this is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. So I get there. We were in Atlanta, and I'm just a wreck, and whatever. So now my first day on set, I'm thinking, here's what's going to happen. They're going to drive me to set. He's going to say, who is this? And then all hell's going to break loose. I really was convinced. So I get to set, and they said, we want to introduce you to Steven. And I go over, and he looks at me, and he goes, Jim, happy to have you. I had created this whole scenario that did not exist. It did not exist. He knew who I was. He seemed happy to have me there. And then, so we start chatting, and I said, listen, I've worked as hard as I can on this accent. He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, I know they want that very specific. He goes, I don't give a shit. Like, what? Like, the whole thing was nuts. And then I start, I meet Channing, and he's just great. And we start, we're rehearsing the scene off set, just the two of us. And I'm thinking, his accent is no better than mine. What, he's just doing a Southern accent like anybody else does. So it was all, I had created a fantasy in my head of how terrible it could have been. And then it turned out to be amazing. I got to work with Hilary Swank. I was dicking around, like Adam Driver and Daniel Craig were like running around the trailers, like pranking each other. Like, it's one of those surreal moments where you're like, what is going on? Like, what is happening that I'm here and this is happening around me?
Good movie as well. Yeah.
That was a pretty, and it was a good movie.
Yeah.
And we shot natural lighting. So it was not the typical film schedule.
Yeah.
I don't think I was back at the hotel later than 2:00 on any day because resetting, there's no moving of lights. It was all natural. So it was a great experience. It was amazing.
Well, what are you working on next?
A couple things. I just did this film in Spain. I mentioned, we'll see how that comes out. I'm starting a God, am I allowed to say? I'm recurring on a new series that a lot of people know about. I don't know if I can say it.
Sure.
I start working next week. It's popular. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
When's it going to air?
Soon. Like, it's already in production. It's a TV series, and I'm coming on as a certain thing. God, that's so weird. I don't know if I can say it. And I'm shooting a campaign. Wow, can I say this either? I'm going to say this one. I don't care. You know who John Lutz is from 30 Rock?
From 30 Rock.
Yes.
We're shooting a thing together. So, always something. Yeah. Thankfully, there's in a film in April. Thankfully, always something.
And how can people?
At some point, there won't be. I know how the business works. At some point,
Jim,
we're done.
Before you give us your social media information, which I believe Jonathan's about to ask, I just want to personally say you've been a true pain in the ass, and
yes.
And to get you to answer any questions is just like pulling teeth. And,
I know. And it would bother me that you said it if I had any respect for you. So I want to say thank you.
Thanks a lot. No, but for reals, man, you're awesome.
This was fun, you guys.
Yeah, huge fan.
So fun.
Yeah.
Well,
go to Chicago.
What is your social media? How can people follow you on social media?
Oh God, I've had to be, because when the book came out, I had to get a lot better about things because, the publisher wants you to be on doing all this stuff. So my Instagram is The Real Jim O'Heir, and O'Heir is H-E-I-R. So The Real Jim O'Heir is my main thing. I'm on Twitter under Jim O'Heir, and then Facebook, all the normal stuff. The Real Jim O'Heir is where I'm at.
Oh, Jim, I want to thank you again for coming on. It's been such a pleasure. We were looking forward to it. Such a pleasure getting to talk to you. And this is really fun for us. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. I had a blast.
Thanks so much, man.
Looking at the clock, I always know I had a good time when it goes so fast.
Well, again, the book is...
But again, no respect. No respect. Right? Yeah.
None taken.
Right. Well, again, the book is
you're like, that feeling is mutual. Yeah, I get it.
Well, I'll say it. The book is Welcome to Pawnee, Stories of Friendship, Waffles, and Parks and Recreation. Again, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen with Moosie Drier. And again, a very special thanks to Jim O'Heir. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thank you for tuning in to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast. Listening to this podcast just makes you really cool.